were talking about that a bit before we started recording. So let's jump in there. I've heard so much conversation around even the names of these events that we're doing. So like live, in person, semi-live, pre-recorded. There's like a new language that's cropped up around these things. But I have heard a case for the importance of it being live, virtual, but live at this, marking a day and time when we're having a discussion like this. And then I've heard and I've experienced all the pros of doing it pre-recorded for quality control, for ensuring that you capture the content and stuff. But so tell me, your preference as an AV production company owner is to pre-record as much as possible?
Correct. Yeah. And I think my experience has been that having some elements live is great for attendee engagement. And there are reasons to be live. And so, if you're giving an award and nobody knows who's getting it, that's a great reason to be live. If you're doing an auction, that's a great reason to be live. But, we've had a few occasions where we've done live streaming when it didn't need to be live. And the end output just isn't as strong. The person maybe is a little bit nervous at the beginning, or stumbles over some words, or takes a really long time to get to the point. And those are things that can be edited out. Like, it's a little bit more attendee friendly and more engaging to be able to put it into a really easy to consume packet for them to take. So it doesn't have to be live. If you want to do a Q&A afterwards and let the person answer questions based on their presentation, I think that's a good way of mixing in live without losing the benefits of recording.
Yeah, I mean, I had a show for 1,000 people, and we had a speaker from the UK, and he literally came into the Zoom room 1 minute before. 1 minute. We had tested and all of that. He was ready to go, but there was some kind of, I don't know what the issue was on his end, but we would have had an hour of dead air. I mean, he was a major keynote speaker, and we didn't have any content in the can. And, one thing when you have an issue like that, it's so hard because you can't really flip the whole schedule and just go, okay, if Bob's not here, let's go to Susie, because someone might have waited and they were waiting for Susie to kick off at 2:00. Mm-hmm. So moving her up to 1 because you had tech issues is going to have a ripple effect and I think can create great customer dissat. You've got to stick to that. We have been talking as a team around putting some content in the can. If the client is insistent on live, putting some content in the can as like backup content or something like that. So we have something to show for that hour or that time slot. Have you done anything like that, or what? We
definitely talk to our clients about backup video or something. What are we going to put up in case we need to buy ourselves some time? And that's also a nice reason to have actual video packets planned into your event, so that if it's a problem that doesn't have to be immediate but needs to be solved in the near future, you can use the time that you created for yourself to be able to solve that problem. So I think that's really helpful. I think for me, I like a lot of times clients and speakers, they feel the adrenaline rush of being live, and they feel like that's translating to the audience, that they're creating this experience because they're having the emotional experience as if they were in person, but it really doesn't translate on the camera. And so they're having that moment, but it's not coming across to the attendees.
So the pre-record, I'm with you on that. I think there's great value in doing that. I also think it's nice to feel connected to speakers. So I like the semi-live format, meaning if you're going to have a certain portion of your program that is a talking head that you can record and share a message or watch a video together or whatever that is, but that there is some moment that there is some live engagement. It feels like we're there together sharing this moment. Some kind of some energy and momentum as a collective group watching something that's happening live. One planner that I know, she does everything live. She just believes that the pre-record is like, you might as well have a webinar and do it at any day and time, because it's not a stamp in time, right? It's not a live coming to you live. as we were both speakers at an event where we pre-recorded our message and then we were in the chat answering questions. I kind of like the idea of bringing those folks in live on camera. Some people have been really caught up in we've got to have the same outfit and the same earrings and make it look like. I don't think we're fooling any audiences. I think you can have full transparency and say, for the best viewing, we've pre-recorded the speaker sessions, and let them know that. And I don't think that they really care. But I do think there is a value in the live element. So it's a challenge that we're all going to have to work through, deciding whether it's, and there's been these terms about a live event, versus in person. So is it a live virtual event? Is it a pre-recorded, in person? But as we move to hybrid, it's like it's an in-person event, but we're going to bring this person in with a pre-recorded program. So it's really in person, but we're not live. It's pre-recorded. Right. So it's like, how do you put all these adjectives together to fit what it might be?
Right. And you're right. Everybody is using the terminology differently. And so one person's idea of what hybrid means is not the same as the next person's idea. But I tend to agree with you. And that's sort of what I was talking about when you talk about parsing out your agenda even further, right? Because it's like, now you can't just say, okay, I have a 1 hour session with so-and-so. You have to say, okay, I'm going to come in. There's going to be an intro that's going to be live. And then we're going to go to the recorded presentation. And then it's going to be the Q&A, which is coming back live with the presenter, And so really understanding what all of those switches are. I'm with you too. I'm not trying to fool the audience. Yeah. And I think that actually this is a benefit of the virtual world that events are offering now, which is, if you're really interested in the content and they're saying something that's really cool or meaningful to you, you can pause and play it again and hear it and really take it in. And I know a lot of attendees are taking advantage of that and getting more out of the presentations because they can do it.
Well, and when you're watching a virtual event and you look at the viewer numbers, all this rich data analytics around the viewer experience, people are popping in and out. We had one show that they had more viewers after the event itself watching recordings than being there live. So there are a lot of different ways that people are taking this in, and it makes a case, I think, for good quality recordings can be really impactful. They don't have to be live to still get some great messaging. What are your thoughts on, as we go to kind of this hybrid scenario? I think there's a lot of opportunity to bring speakers that may never have been able to come into an in-person event because of travel costs or whatever. And also, there are clients of ours that have identified these ancillary audiences that will forever be joining remotely. They just probably will never take the time or money to come in person, but they want the content. So do you see that as a trend as far as just virtual or live streaming broadcasting still being a critical piece of these new in-person events?
Yeah, I expect that live streaming will become more of a regular part of an event and more of an expectation of attendees. I'm using the word attendee kind of loosely because it could be a remote attendee. But now everyone's had the experience of being able to attend a conference from the comfort of their home. And I think that's going to be an expectation. It's funny, we did live streaming for many years on in-person events, and it was sort of an afterthought for the planner. It was very low on the list. And so we would just do it and nobody ever watched it or followed up with us or any, and now it's become of central importance, so we've all learned a lot in the process and we've gotten better because of all of the attention and the thoughts. So it's really great. I think with hybrid, it's going to be interesting because in order to actually do a hybrid meeting, and what I mean by that is that there are in-person attendees and remote attendees that are consuming the same content at the same time. If you want to have interaction between those groups and you want to have, as you mentioned, like a speaker remote being beamed in and being able to interact with the in-person audience, it's as if you're doing two events from an AV perspective. And so it really does almost double the cost. And so it's going to be select clients that are able to do that, where they're able to absorb the venue costs and the stake, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
as well as kind of the incremental AV costs to be able to do that. I like the idea of another friend of mine coined the term fusion, where it's a live and in-person event that gets captured, and then there's a separate virtual event after the fact that uses some of the footage from that live event or in-person event. And I think that that might be a smart way to do it, to be able to deliver the content in the most engaging way, depending on the audience.
It's going to be so interesting. I've got so many thoughts about what you just said. One, I want to point out, we've got clients that have typically, well, let me start first. Live stream, you're right. It was always an afterthought because, part of that was financially driven. The goal was to put butts in seats at the top
Right.
ticket, and then if we have more that want to watch, we can monetize that. But it's going to cost a lot to do live stream. Are we going to sell enough virtual tickets to cover that investment? And they're finding again that they can expand these audiences to really cover that feature. But then you have the clients, and this is for true conferences where they'd have a general session and then they have 4 breakout rooms. Well, they never put audiovisual recording equipment in those breakouts. They just offered live stream from the main sessions so I was looking at a bid the other day, and we wanted to record from every breakout because we want all the sessions on the virtual platform. Well, you're right. Now our AV costs are going up significantly because we're trying to record everything, broadcast everything, not just record it, but broadcast it. I also think I love the word fusion. And I've been, when people have said you have to plan 2 different events, I'm challenging our team to think about integration. So I would love to see a studio built in my venue, and those people are producing the virtual experience. And when all the people that were in the ballroom go out for a cocktail and start, networking, I'd love to have something cool happening in the studio. So still the people at home get, to experience networking online. Yeah. I'd love to be able to have the people in the room see a wall full of virtual attendees so they can come in live with a question. What does that cost production wise? So I think what's going to happen is we're going to get these wish lists of how we want it to be an integrated 2 ticket holders, 1 in the chair, 1 online on a device. And what do they get for that? And where are the integration touch points? How can they feel like they were together at some point during this 1-day, 3-day conference? It's fascinating when you look at what's happening and the ability to re-envision how these can happen with 2 different audiences.
Yeah, and definitely, I think you'll still have to choose which audience you're going to preference. And so that's going to, I think, drive some decision making where it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm giving the remote audience a virtual experience, but it's just a wide camera shot of a little guy speaker on the stage and the screen, and they're not really in the experience. Or I'm giving them a true virtual experience where you get kind of the headshot and then the picture in picture, and they can really see what's going on. And if you do that, then the speaker can't move around a lot, and the in-person people suffer to some degree. And so you have to decide who is more important and who are you going to cater to. And I think that's one of the big challenges that, we say hybrid and it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But when you get into the details, it's kind of like, I'm not sure that's going to work out perfectly.
Well, one of the solutions we came up with, because it was cost prohibitive to do video recording in every breakout, is to have that speaker go ahead and pre-record a shorter session that the online people, so they did it through Zoom or whatever their preferred video platform is, but they essentially videoed themselves, submitted the deck. And so for the virtual attendees, they got the breakout content, but they're just going to have to click on a video instead of being physically in the breakout room. So